Pokémon Fire Red is a pretty fantastic game. Apart from being a remake of the most recognizable generation of Pokémon, it also has charming graphics, a very 90s feeling story, and of course the original 151 Pokémon. And if I can cut right to the chase, I honestly believe it's the best Pokémon game. Well, it and Leaf Green, but I'm just gonna call it Fire Red for convenience, so blah blah blah. And I know as soon as I say that anything is the best at anything, people feel as though I'm shoving my opinion down their throat, but I'm not. I'm trying to be as objective as possible and look at the things that the game did right. And hell, if I'm being totally honest, Fire Red isn't even my favorite Pokemon game, it's just the one I feel is of the highest quality. Let's go through some of the reasons why. For starters, it's very focused on you and your adventure. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, so let me explain what I mean. As the Pokemon games went on, it became less about your character and more about what was going on around your character. This can come into play in a couple of ways, including making the story more focused on the troubles of people like Enter Lysander, or having the legendary Pokemon of the game be huge and take main center. See, Fire Red did something really awesome in its design where the game was built around doing things. My favorite example is with the sleeping Snorlax. So, after you exit Lavender Town and start heading down Route 12, you encounter a Snorlax just laying in the middle of the road. You from there have to go to Mr. Fuji, who you learn is at the top of Pokemon Tower, which is the very town that you just came from. See, this is already smart design because they put something in your way which keeps you from progressing, and the solution of the problem isn't that far out of your way. You just head straight back up and into the Pokemon Tower. So you make your way up the tower until you reach a ghost right before the staircase to get to the top. You don't know what it is, you don't know why it's there, and hell, you can't even damage it. You eventually realize that you need to run away from this Pokemon, get some item, come back, and then take it on. So, if you can't go down and you can't go up, as up is how you entered the town in the first place, it's only logical you'd have to go to the left. So, you do this until you come to Celadon City, where you learn via the people living there that the town has been overtaken by Team Rocket. This ties into an earlier point I made. If this were some later Pokemon game like Black or X, you would have been taken to this place almost like you were being led because the team was there. In Fire Red, you're there because you want to progress. You need something that Team Rocket has in their possession so that you can continue through the game and become the Pokemon champion. The whole adventure is about you, what you need to do to go further, what you need to accomplish. The original Red, Blue, and Yellow were before they could think up some plot involving a team and ultimately an evil person that you had to defeat. The world wasn't going to come to an end, the Pokemon weren't being enslaved, it was just about you. And that's pretty brilliant when you think about it. I don't want to do something because a character in a game told me I want to do it. I mean, sure, I'll still do the task they're talking about just because I want to progress, but this creates a very distinct disconnect from the player and the game. It's a much better scenario when the player does something because they want to do it, not because the game is saying that you want to, because you know you want to. It's freaking incredible! Then there's the fact that many franchise standards are optional. You can go through the entire game without getting a bike, without learning Fly, without catching a single legendary. At first this sounds bad because it seems like there's less that the player is getting out of the experience. In actuality, that's the furthest from the truth. Just walking or running sucks. You want something faster, so you explore until you find the Pokemon fan club and get the bicycle voucher, and then you can move faster. This is also helped by the fact that the gym in Fuchsia City is way overpowered by the time you get there. You travel down by the beach, but there's only a couple of trainers to battle against, so the only viable place to train is the cycling road. On the cycling road, you also get Fly by, guess what? Exploring. Eventually you get Surf and can then explore the waters, which is where you find Articuno in a cave. All of this is connected to a central theme of exploration. It's all tied to you looking around because you know you'll find something interesting. In later Pokemon games, the exploration element is all but gone. I mean, you can explore for extra items or maybe a legendary in the absolute best of circumstances, but you can go through the game and still get just as much out of the experience. If you don't look around in Fire Red, you miss a lot of awesome things. It's just handled so well. But I think one of the greatest achievements made by this game is how it handles legendaries. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like the legendaries in later games are made such an integral part of the experience. It makes the whole thing seem forced, especially when in some cases the legendaries are thrown in out of nowhere with little to no buildup. In Fire Red, legendaries are handled perfectly, and this is where I'm going to lose a lot of people, but I honestly believe they work so well because they aren't really talked about. I mean, sure, they're mentioned a couple times, but if you're just playing through the game normally, it's pretty easy to just not even know they're in the game. The first time I played Fire Red, I had no idea that Mewtwo was even in it, and yet that made catching him so much more enthralling. I think it was probably because since I hadn't known about him before, to just stumble upon him in my second or third playthrough was one of the most incredible experiences. And what made it even better was when I finally caught him. Articuno is pretty similar. The only reason I even found him was because a friend actually showed me how. It's moments like these, finding out through a friend, literally just stumbling across something that are so missing in future Pokemon games. When the legendaries are a huge part of the game, sure, it gives you something to look forward to, catching that legendary and using it, but a bit of the magic seems to be gone. I mean, in Fire Red, the reason you don't know what the legendary is, or that there are even going to be legendaries, is because it's never directly shown to you. Even on the title screen, it's a Charizard, something you can get pretty pretty easily if you pick the right starter. For the other games, it's a big cinematic opening showing off what legendary Pokemon you should be looking forward to. But to me, it does the exact opposite. Since I see what the Pokemon looks like and what it's around, I can generally guess what type it is and what kind of abilities it's going to use. And then it doesn't help when you do catch that legendary that everyone else's normal Pokemon are usually way above it. And so because of that, you get destroyed. And I'm left with a feeling that somehow I've been lied to. Am I just being an overanalyzing idiot? Probably, but that's still how I feel. But for all these things that this game does right, you have to remember that a lot of them were also done by the original Red, Blue, and Yellow. So if these games are so similar, why do I think Fire Red is the best? Well, one, and this is definitely the less important factor, the game has been given a very noticeable shiny new coat of paint. And let me just say, the upgrade from 8-bit to 16-bit is very nice. The animations are a lot cleaner and smoother, and it all just gives off a vibe of colorful. And I know that's a weird word to use to describe this, but I mean, look at it! The colors all pop off the screen, and they've managed to color your character so as no matter where you're at, some kind of color is complementing another. Because of the red and blue of the male trainer and the white and pink of the female, every area seems to mesh well, no matter who you're playing with. But like I said, that's by far the least important change. No, I'd say the most important has been with the gameplay tweaks they've done. First and foremost, Psychic type is no longer an unstoppable powerhouse. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still very powerful and packs a serious punch, but it's been made so not almost everything is weak to it. It's a small touch, but it really does come in handy in areas where Psychics are aplenty. Unfortunately, this does also mean that you can't rely on a Psychic to destroy everything in front of you, but it makes the game more balanced, so I'm all for it. The rest of the gameplay tweaks are smaller, but when put together make it a much more enjoyable experience. Things like the Sevi Islands, which weren't available in the original games, Pokemon breeding, more bag space, a different TM set, and of course the wireless adapter cartridge, which meant that you could battle people online. These minor details are just a few of the changes made between Gen 1 and here, and that in itself is why I think this game is the best in the series. The minor details. As the games went on, the innovation kinda came to a standstill. Instead, they became more focused on how many Pokemon there were and what you could do with them, and that's not necessarily bad, but it's certainly different. The games are less focused on letting you enjoy the ride and more so on all the things they want to show off. And I mean, that hasn't affected my enjoyment of the games. My favorite one comes from Gen 6, but it has affected how I look at the games. Pokemon is trying to keep up with the changing world and stay relevant, and with that, they've sacrificed a little bit of fun. Not much, but just enough to feel like something's missing. Pokemon Sun and Moon do look like it's going to be more of a return to form, and I think that's good. I'm not going to make any final decisions before I play it, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty damn good. But until then, or maybe even after, if that game ends up being disappointing, I'll always have Pokemon Fire Red to go back to. I'm not sick of it yet, and I can't find myself becoming sick of it anytime soon. It's not perfect, but it understands what makes Pokemon fun. A journey about you becoming the best that ever was. I just hope they realize that's what makes it fun before it's too late.